Shedding looks set to remain a feature in South Africans' lives. The government's plan will be key in determining just how long the country remains in the dark. For Newsroom Africa on Channel 405, I'm Nick Anderson in Johannesburg.
Well, Tourism Minister Lindiwe Sisulu has denied securing medication from Russia for the late Jesse Duarte. Duarte passed away on Sunday after battling cancer. Now, the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority says it's now engaging with the Minister's office on these allegations to give us an understanding of the procedures that need to be taken to bring medication from another country to South Africa. We're now joined by the CEO of SAHPRA, that's Dr. Boitumelo Sumete Makokotlela, who joins us via our phone lines this morning. Dr. Makokotlela, great to have you with us on the program. Let me just check as a start whether you can hear me.
I hear you very clearly. Thank you for having me.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much for coming on. So the Minister of Tourism now says that her comments over the weekend were actually misconstrued. She says, you know, the medication that she had in mind was just that. It was in her mind. It was not in her pocket. But on the face of it, what was SAHPRA concerned about insofar as this idea of bringing medication from another country to South Africa?
Sure. Thank you so much again for having me. So, you know, until we get the facts ourselves from the minister, it will be very difficult for me to comment on, you know, what was contained in the various media articles, etc. But we thought we would utilize this opportunity to educate the public and various stakeholders in terms of the process that needs to be followed for anyone or for any institution or entity to bring in medication into the country, because it is a regulated sector, and we must ensure that proper processes are followed, because if they're not followed, then it is a breach of our medicine act.
Yeah. So SAHPRA, in its statement, has said that there are a number of registered medications available in South Africa used to treat a whole range of cancers. But that doesn't mean that an oncologist can't have access to other medications, but there is a process. Am I understanding that correctly?
That is certainly correct. I mean, we do acknowledge that not all medicines available globally would be available or registered in the country. And a number of healthcare practitioners are quite familiar with this process, wherein if you want to access an unregistered product that is not available in the country, you then put in an application to SAHPRA, and we would consider that. And this is also named within our Act. It is Section 21 of our Act. But, you know, we would need to consider the specific application, understand the rationale, the clinical context, and this would be for a specific patient that the doctor would have asked for and the specific quantity. So it's not made available to anyone for any quantity.
Yeah. That's very important, isn't it, what you've just said, that the application for this unregistered medicine would be by a treating oncologist, and as you say, for a specific quantity of that medication for a particular person in terms of that unregistered medication.
Certainly, and this is where, I mean, we work closely with the, you know, healthcare professionals, because they are the experts. And, you know, we do believe that in the country we've got, you know, very strong and very high expertise in the various clinical disciplines. And so we would then consider the application, and it has to be by the healthcare professional.
Shall we talk, Dr. Makokotlela, about the process of importing and exporting medication insofar as SAHPRA is concerned? There are obviously strict guidelines and there are strict regulations in terms of import and export. Who are the entities who are able to apply to SAHPRA to do so?
Certainly. So we have, in essence, different mechanisms, right? So in the event that a drug is registered, so you would then have the company that, you know, owns this registration, who would also be licensed. And the process is that for any import and export, there would be an application for that. So we do issue permits, you know, for that. So again, it's a very controlled mechanism of how they can. You know, when we approve the registration, we also indicate what conditions, you know, around export and import. So that applies for registered products. In the event that one wants to import an unregistered product, again, they would have to follow the process that I've just spoken to. And in our authorization, we would then indicate that we are authorizing the importation or even exportation of some medicines to other countries. And what this then does is that when this product is then brought into our officials and the Department of Health officials, when they then receive this medicine, they would then have the approval from SAHPRA being provided to them, so they're able to then release the funds.
Right. Dr. Makokotlela, for me as Michelle Craig, if I'd like to, as a layperson, order medication from abroad, am I able to apply to SAHPRA to do so?
No, typically, I mean, what we've seen is there has to be a clinical, rationale indicated. There must be a diagnosis. So it would need to be a healthcare professional who would have made the diagnosis, and there must be a prescription, linked to that. So a layperson typically cannot. Mm-hmm. You would have to, get your treating practitioner to be the one who does that.
And in the event of someone bringing medication into the country, if I've returned from a trip to another country and I bring medication with me that I've obtained in the other country, what are the sanctions around doing something like that?
So again, the Act is quite clear and our guidelines is quite clear. I mean, every case will differ, right? So we'll need to look at the quantities you've brought in, why you brought that in and how you brought that in. We would then need to investigate the matter. And then depending on the gravity of that situation, we would either say, the medication must be returned, or we've confiscated. In some instances, you may have seen even with falsified COVID vaccines that were brought into the country, we actually, had, we lodged cases with the South African Police Services in this, so that those individuals who breached the Medicines Act could then, be brought to book. So again, every case differs. Yeah. We look at it very specifically.
And the reason why these regulations are so tightly controlled, Dr. Makokotlela, it's obvious, right? It can't be a case of willy-nilly bringing or exporting medication from one country to another.
Certainly. I mean, the safety of the public is utmost to us, and we want to ensure that, the public does access safe, quality medicines that is also effective. So, for one to be able to be certain that whatever medicine they're accessing, it has to then have gone through the regulatory process. So it really is to safeguard the public.
Dr. Boitumelo Semete Makokotlela, the CEO of the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, thanks very much indeed for your time this morning.